In the world of agriculture, there really aren't that many certainties. But one thing that is as certain as death and taxes is the questions that come to us this time of year, every year, about stover and the removal of stover from our fields. Whether you're a cattle producer, whether you're a corn-on-corn grower, there's a litany of reasons why stover removal may or may not be the right thing for you on your farm. But at the end of the day, no matter what the conditions are, there are a number of factors that go into that decision, and it's seldom as simple as a dollar and cents decision when you come up with that. I'm your host, Keith Byerly, and this is Constant Innovation presented by Central Valley Ag. The article along with the video can be found here on the CVA website. So when we talk about stover removal, we need to talk about not just the cost of it, but the short-term and long-term implications for you and your farm. And really at the end of the day, it breaks down into four factors. There's soil health, the animal feed needs, the corn-on-corn implications that go along with it, and finally the nutrient costs that are associated with stover removal. So let's go through this. Now from the soil health aspect, we begin to get a little bit more muddy picture. As we talk about soil health, we need to consider both the implications of weather as well as the implications of the actual soil health components. We really have two things to consider. If we remove more than 30 or 40% of our stover off of that field, we're gonna leave the soil exposed to bad things. That topsoil on the very surface is where the best nutrients are housed, and that's also where we have the ability to seal off that soil from rainfall. So if we get some high intensity precipitation events before a new crop is growing on that field, we really leave things open to crusting and things like that that can impact our water infiltration for the rest of the year. The implications on organic matter and things like that are a much bigger discussion that need to be looked at a case-by-case basis for you and your soil types. As far as the livestock implications, I'm really not the person to be talking about that. But I know that if you're using DDGs and things like that, you've got a need for roughage in your feed rations, and stover is a vital part of that. So if you're using stover for feeding of your own cattle, I think that there are a lot of things about that that make sense and can justify all the different aspects that go along with it. Next then we have the corn-on-corn aspect. I know a lot of people talk about this one to me more than any other one, because with the improved genetics and the improved BT characteristics and all of those things that we find in our corn, we find that we have stalks that just don't break down like they used to. It takes a longer period of time, it takes more incorporation of the soil, and we have nutrient tie-ups, especially nitrogen, that go along with that. If you're a corn-on-corn farmer, stover management is definitely something that needs to be part of your management decisions, but it's not necessarily a reason all by itself to bail off stover and get it off the field. And then finally, there's the cost associated with it. This year, we're gonna look at the cost of stover removal being around $6.50 to $7 a ton for NP and K that goes on out there. Really not that bad of a factor when you consider the cost of nutrients right now, and definitely not enough to deter the actual act itself. But on the other side of things, we have the sand farmers. Those nutrient associated costs are fine for heavy texture, but when we work into light textured soils, magnesium becomes a major player. This year with the cost of K-Mag, we're looking at about a $45 to $50 for every 2 tons that comes off of that field for magnesium. It makes it really difficult to justify those costs. So here's my take home for you today. I'm not gonna change your mind about stover removal. That's a decision for you and your trusted advisor to go into and figure out on your own. But I would be remiss if I didn't challenge you to make sure that you're considering all of these extenuating factors and bringing them all together in your decision to handle stover in different ways than what you do today. Because there are costs, both short-term and long-term, that go with stover removal, and we need to make sure that we don't make a short-term decision this year financially that affects our long-term financial security. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.